Hi everybody, thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about integrating the Google Search Appliance with WebCenter or Liferay Portal. So as many of you know, today's presentation is part 2 in a 2-part series on Google Search for Portal. And so we're going to start out just covering a little bit of high-level overview of Google Search for Portal, and then we're going to transition right into the bulk of the presentation on serving GSA results in a portal. After that, we'll dive into the details of Fishbowl's GSA Portal Search Suite product. I will then provide a demo of that product, and at the end of the call, we will open it up for questions. A couple of other housekeeping items. This session is being recorded, so everyone who registered for the event will get a copy of the recording emailed to them following the broadcast. We will take questions at the end, so feel free to use the chat box throughout the broadcast and type in any questions that you may have, and we'll get to those at the end of the session. Like I said, my name is Kim Nygaard. I'm a product manager here at Fishbowl Solutions. I've been working with the Google Search Appliance and Oracle WebCenter for about 4 years. Fishbowl Solutions is a partner both in the Google search space as well as Oracle WebCenter and WebCenter content. And we've been focusing on helping customers solve frustrating, costly knowledge sharing problems for about 15 years. So for those of you who weren't able to join us last week, we talked last week about the importance of search in a portal and what Google brings to the enterprise search space regarding a portal. So Jason Lehman, my colleague, he introduced everyone to the GSA, this bright yellow box from Google that brings the relevancy, the simplicity of Google.com into the enterprise in a way that's secure and scalable. So continuing from there, today we're going to talk about, you have this, you know about the Google Search Appliance, either you have one or you're looking at purchasing one, and you want to know, what are my options? How do I bring Google Search into a portal? So I find the best place to start is really with the end in mind. What are we trying to do? When you think about a portal is that one place you can go to find all of your enterprise information, to get at all of your enterprise applications. And enterprise search is really about making it so you can go to one place to search across all your enterprise information. So bringing those two things together really is a natural fit. It makes sense. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to make Google search, enable Google to search across all of our enterprise information and do that from one place, with that one place being your portal. So how do we actually do that? At a very high level, there's a couple of pieces involved in really making that happen. Last week we talked about the GSA, what it is, and kind of what it can bring to an organization. So the first step in really bringing Google Search to your portal is to index your content. Get all the information. I mean, this slide shows all kinds of different repositories that the GSA can search. So the first thing you have to do is get that content into the GSA to make it searchable. Once that happens, then the next step is really to configure your GSA, to configure your search experience. And that's some of the things that Jason talked about last week. Those of you on the call who have GSAs already are probably fairly familiar with some of this. It's the ability to have navigation facets, dynamic navigation. It's the synonyms. It's tuning your relevancy. All of those things that Google asks you to do. That's really the next step in creating that search experience. But to really bring that into the portal, the third piece of that is looking at integrating them. So how do we let users in the portal perform Google searches against the Google Search Appliance and get access to all that content so that ultimately they can find what they need? You can find what you need quickly, easily, and get back to doing your job, which is not to search for content. To make it easy to find all the information that resides in your enterprise. So today's webinar and today's conversation is really focused on this middle piece about how do we take the information that's available through the Google Search Appliance and the relevant search features, and how do we integrate that with a portal? So that's what we're going to focus on today. But before we jump too far into that, I do want to talk just briefly about indexing, because I know some of you joining us today are kind of new to the Google Search Appliance. So I just want to give a little bit of background on your options for indexing, because until you get your content in, integrating with the portal isn't really going to provide a lot of value. So at a very high level, there's really two approaches that you can take to indexing content. The first is crawling, and crawling is really what is used on the public web. You have a web crawler, sometimes called a spider, and the way this works is it uses patterns to discover links to pages that you want to index. So you might start at your home page. It's going to crawl it's going to index your home page, then it's going to go to all the links on your home page. It's going to index all those pages, and so on until it has exhausted all the possibilities that match the patterns that you want to index. This works really well when you have a web type of content where things are linked together. You can discover all your pages from another page. The other option is called feeding, and this is really the idea that you're going to send documents to the search appliance to be indexed. A lot of times feeds are used with connectors. So a connector can manage the feed. It's going to create the feed, send it to the search appliance. The connector, through something called Google's Connector Framework, can manage knowing when things have changed, when there's a new document that needs to be indexed, deleting content when it needs to be taken out. So all of that is can be managed through the connectors, and Google's Connector Framework is open. So Google provides 8 different connectors for free as part of the search appliance that you can use. But using their same framework, they also open that up so that other partners like Fishbowl can create connectors to additional repositories, which expands the amount of different systems that you can index with your GSA. So some of you I know actually own some of our connectors already. We have connectors for WebCenter Content, YouTube, and PTC Windchill. And then beyond that, this framework can also be used to create custom connectors to index other systems. And so this feeding and this connector approach is really helpful when you need to index systems where you have maybe a content management system or a bunch of documents or a bunch of records that aren't really a website. You can't just link from one to the next to the next. This allows you to make sure that all that content is indexed. It also allows you to index all the metadata or other properties about the content to make it searchable. So that is a very high-level overview of indexing. I could do an entire web test on it, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of what's possible. If you have questions about this, you can certainly submit them in the chat window, and if we have time, I'll get to them at the end. Otherwise, I'm happy to follow up with you afterward or connect you with the right person at Fishbowl who can answer those questions. But with no further ado, I want to get into the bulk of today's presentation, which is really looking at what are the options for integrating the GSA with a portal. And there's really 2 approaches you can take, really, when integrating the GSA with a portal or any other website. So the first one is to use the onboard front-end XSLT that ships with the appliance that's built in, and the second is to use a proxy application to consume the results and render them to the user. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of those results. And I thought the best place to start was to just kind of look at the diagram to paint the picture of how the search appliance returns results. So when a user does a search, the search results are going to come back in one of 2 ways. The first is to use on the search appliance itself. There's an onboard front-end XSLT. So this is going to take care of displaying the results. So really the user will be looking at an HTML page. It'll have all their search results, the links, the snippets, the titles, any of these other features, your navigation, your related searches. That's all going to be presented on an HTML page to the user that's hosted on the GSA itself. The other option is to use a proxy application to handle this, in which case the GSA would return the raw search result data as XML to the proxy application, which could be your portal, and then that's going to take care of displaying the results. So putting together the links and showing the titles and displaying whatever information you want, controlling the look and feel. That's all going to happen within your application, and then the application will ultimately return the results to the end user in the browser. Those are really the 2 approaches to serving results. To take a little deeper look at each of them and kind of the pros and cons, the first option is to use the XSLT front end on the GSA itself. So this is hosted on the GSA. It comes out of the box when you buy the search appliance. This is the built-in way to serve results off of the GSA itself. This can be customized to match your site design, so you can change the font or change the header. It can be rendered if you're thinking, okay, well, we're talking about how do we serve it up in a portal. In that case, what's often done is you can render this either as an iframe in your portal where someone's searching against the GSA, but they're inside the portal context, or you can have a search box on, say, the header, and when someone types in a search term, it's going to redirect them with that term to the GSA itself and display the search results. So at that point, it's taking them out of the portal to the GSA. This approach ultimately the GSA is always returning the XML response, but then in this case the GSA uses onboard XSLT to transform the raw XML into the display layer, to transform it into HTML, and show it to a user. So it looks like Google.com, sort of. This hasn't been updated in a while, so it really kind of looks like Google.com from the early days. Some of the pros to using this approach are that it's very quick and easy to roll out. It is built in, so basic configuration is also built into the Search Appliance admin console, which means you can go, you can say, you know, control which features you want to turn on. Do you want to turn on type ahead? Do you want to turn on document previews? You can add your own logo, etc. That stuff is very easy to do. You don't have to write any code to change those types of things. It's generally relatively inexpensive because there's no added cost to use this. It's part of the product, part of the GSA product, and unless you're paying an outside firm to customize it for you, it's relatively inexpensive. It's also supported and updated by Google. So if when Google added document previews in 7.0, when they added dynamic navigation in 6.14, the built-in XSLT is automatically updated to be able to display those to users who are performing searches. And as part of that, it's going to handle all of the more complicated features of the GSA, like document previews, providing the type ahead suggestions, doing all of the click tracking. Last week, Jason talked about this self-learning score, which is the feature of the GSA that lets you look at user click patterns and analyze that for relevancy to let your search results get more relevant over time. So if someone's constantly clicking on, say, the 6th item, it's going to know, oh, well, maybe that should really be the 1st item because that's the relevant thing people click on. But in order for it to do that, you have to actually, the GSA has to know what people are clicking on. So having that as part of this UI. Some of the downsides to this is that the user experience is generally poor to average. Because it hasn't been updated in a while, it generally kind of looks dated. It doesn't always match the portal where your user started. You're kind of getting disconnected. You're getting taken out of the portal and you're being brought to this other place. If you're looking to serve results on either a public portal or something like a customer or supplier extranet, and you want the GSA searches to be available outside the firewall, then you need to make your GSA accessible outside the firewall because it's going to be the GSA itself that's presenting these results to your users. There are intrinsic limitations to the style sheet in terms of combining certain features. Just with the way that Google's designed it, certain things aren't supported working together. For example, you can't have dynamic result clusters, which is like the list of related terms, and dynamic navigation, which is the filter facets. You can't use them both at the same time. It's also quite difficult to customize extensively. So I mentioned it's very easy to do some basic things, add your logo, turn features on and off. But if you really want to start modifying the layout, really modifying the look and feel, the whole layout is done using Google's XSLT style sheet, which is not documented and not supported by their support team in terms of editing it. So it's about 7,000 lines of XSLT that you basically just have to weed through and try to figure out how to adjust it and turn things on and off. So it's not the simplest thing to work with. And then lastly, there can be challenges if you're doing secure search and you want to provide single sign-on, allowing that single sign-on to happen, especially if you're doing searching within an iframe. So the other option besides using XSLT that's on a search appliance is to use a proxy application. And this would be a custom portal integration with the GSA. So it could be a portlet, or in the case of Oracle WebCenter, it could also be a task flow. And in this case, the raw XML results are returned to the portal. And then your portal application, so your task flow or your portlet, is going to process the XML to create the search results page. So usually this is a custom development effort. And you not only have to implement the display of the results, but you also have to implement the actual search request process. So when someone types in a query term, you have to process if you want to do type ahead, or if you want to pass certain parameters back to the search appliance around the scope of the content that you're searching, whether or not you're doing secure searches. You have to implement all of that as part of the application. So to do this really requires some significant technical skills. You need to know the GSA's response format and API. You need to know how to transform the XML response that you get from search appliance into native objects that you can work with in the portal. Then you have to do the actual portal development, so that's generally going to be either an ADF task flow, specifically for Oracle, or it could be a portlet. And then finally the display layer, so doing the front-end development. It might be an ADF or JSP, and then HTML and CSS. So to really get the whole picture, all of those pieces come into play. The major advantage to this approach is the seamlessness. So users are remaining in your portal when you're searching. So the user experience is very seamless. Obviously, if we're talking about custom, the quality and what you get really is going to vary a lot based on how much time is spent and what is all implemented. But you have the opportunity to create something that's very seamless within your portal. A couple of other advantages to this approach is that your GSA does not need to be accessible outside the firewall. The portal could proxy all of the traffic to the user, so the user is not searching directly against the GSA. And lastly, you don't have to know XSLT, you don't have to wade through Google's long XSLT style sheet, so it provides an alternate development technologies. You can use JSP or ADF, which if you have a portal in place, may be more likely that those skill sets already exist in-house. The disadvantages to taking this approach is by far the complexity. So you have to have a number of different skills I mentioned on the last slide, Google skills and portal development skills. So this oftentimes leads to a relatively high initial cost, as well as the cost either in time or in dollars to change it later. Every single feature that you want to use in the application, you have to implement because you're starting from scratch. And so if you want document previews, if you want type ahead, people search, click tracking, in order to do the self-learning scoring, even something as simple as spell check, if you want to use that, you have to implement something that's going to show that on the screen and allow users to interact with it. And lastly, the security piece. If you're doing this, you have to deal with security if you want to use secure search results. So whether that's writing your own integration with GSA or leveraging some of the options Google has out of the box, again, depending on both what you implement and the infrastructure that you have in place, this may or may not be silent, and it just adds some more complexity to the process. So with that in mind, Fishbowl created the GSA Portal Search Suite. We released this product last month, and our intention was really to bring you the best of both worlds. So to combine the benefits of a custom application without all the technical barriers, without having to write a lot of code, without having to maintain that. And so we created this standards-based flexible integration for WebCenter or Liferay Portal. So what is this actually? It is a suite of portlets written to the JSR 286 standard, and they're currently supported on WebCenter and Liferay Portal. This product is a serving solution. So if you think back to the slide I showed earlier with the 4 steps, this product is really focused on that third piece. It's bringing the Google search experience into the portal. So all the content that you have indexed, regardless of whether it's portal pages themselves or whether it's content from a SharePoint instance or a file system or a database, making that all searchable from one place inside your portal. And then the last piece is this product is also can be used as an authentication mechanism to provide that silent authentication between the GSA and the portal. So once the user already logs into the portal, we don't want to make them log in again to the GSA to see search results, so we provide a way to do this silently. A couple of reasons we did this. As I mentioned earlier, Fishbowl has been working with the Google Search Appliance and WebCenter for a number of years. We've also been working with Liferay for a number of years. And so we saw, we've done several of these types of projects in the past where Fishbowl was the one implementing those types of custom applications that I talked about before. And what we saw was really a lot of people wanting to do similar things. There was really an opportunity to deliver more value by creating a product. And on top of that, you get the benefits of having something that's supported. It's standard product. You can call support. You can get upgrades when Google or WebCenter or Liferay release new features. And so there was no other standard integrations on the market to do this, which is why we decided to create a product to fill this. And if you're a WebCenter customer specifically, you might also be wondering why we chose to use portlets as opposed to using task flows. And there's really a number of reasons that we did that. By using portlets, we can write to a standard and use that on both Liferay and WebCenter portals. It also makes it easier in the future if we want to support additional platforms. So if any of you on the call today are wondering if you have, say, WebSphere or some other portal and you're wondering what options you have to serve Google results in your portal, certainly feel free to write a question in the chat box and I can follow up with you afterwards. In addition, Portlets allows for easier deployment. You don't have to restart your server to deploy them, whereas if you went with Tescos, you would have. And then for customers to actually customize the search experience further, you can develop in JSP, which we have found to be more common than people having ADF knowledge. So that's some of the reasons we did this. There's really a number of advantages to using this product over the other approaches, writing your own application or using the XSLT out of the box. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those, and then I'm going to show you a demo of this in action. So the first advantage is that it's very seamless. So the portlets are plug and play with your portal. The results are rendered directly in the portal itself. So you're not sticking an iframe in of the XSLT. You're not redirecting someone out of the portal to something that feels different, disconnected on the GSA. It's all within the portal itself. And we've developed and included a number of GSA features, so it's very comprehensive. It's a lot of the core features that Jason talked about last week, why Google works so well. Things like type ahead, their relevancy, the synonyms and all the word summing, and the ability to have spell checks. So just that core, what makes your effective search. And then adding on to that, it's all of these more sophisticated things that are specific to the GSA, like document previews, click tracking to support the self-learning score, people search to search not only documents but for other experts in your organization, and then dynamic navigation to filtering. So this is not an exhaustive list, but the feature set is very comprehensive. And then it's going to let you integrate with the look and feel that you already have in place in your portal, and you'll see this in the demo. I'll point it out when we get to it. But our intention was to allow your search experience to function very much like Google, but to look and feel consistent with the rest of the portal that you already have in place. So the design is much more flexible. The portlets are resizable. You can move them around. It's going to inherit the CSS that you have in your portal, so as soon as you install it, it's already going to look more seamless than what you would likely get when you turn on, if you're using the front end on the GSA itself. This is also a very flexible approach. So on this slide, I have the list of the 8 portlets that are included with the product. And the reason why we took the approach of having multiple different portlets is to make it easy to not only turn features on and off, but actually control the layout of the page. If you want a one-column layout with things stacked up, or you want your navigation on the left, or you want a 3-column layout with navigation on the left and people results on the right, you have the option to do all those things and to move things around very easily. The portlets themselves are all very configurable. I'll show a couple examples in the demo of some of the configuration options that you have. But because we've worked with a lot of different customers over the last 4 years, we've seen similar things that people want to be able to do, and so we've written that into the portlets themselves to make it easy to do things like change whether or not a link shows, or the URLs show up for results, or change how many items are on a page, stuff like that. It's all built in. You don't have to write code in order to make those changes. And because of that, you can have very different search experiences on different portal pages, all using this one product. So if you have an intranet use case and you have a main intranet page where you're searching across your entire set of content in your index, you may also have an HR page where you only want to search this HR subsite and you want to provide different features. Maybe you want people search on the main page, but you don't want it on the HR page, things like that. You have the flexibility very easily to have those kind of different experiences all within your portal. I mentioned security before. When we're looking at enterprise search, we have to provide the option to have secure results. So if you do need to provide secure results, we have a servlet that's part of the product. It's built in so that it provides that silent authentication between the portal and the Google Search Appliance. Once users log into the portal, they're not going to have to log in again to the GSA, and they're only going to see the results that they're authorized to see. The other piece around security is, I mentioned before, the ability to keep your GSA inside the firewall. So the portal is going to proxy all the requests to the GSA. So you can use one GSA both internally, say to serve an intranet, and externally maybe to serve a supplier portal, and do that all with one GSA, and your client browser does not need to have access to the GSA. Your GSA does not need to be accessible outside the firewall. And of course, because it is a product, it's supported, it's tested. You get access to our support team. You get new features as Google or WebCenter or Liferay make updates. There'll be new releases. And you don't have to go through an extensive scoping phase. You don't have to go through an extensive development phase that you would need with a custom application approach. I'm going to show in the demo just how easy it is to get this up and running. Really so much quicker than writing custom development. I have here, in 30 minutes you can install this and you can be searching. And I'm actually going to show adding some portlets to a page and how very quickly you can have a working page up and running. And last but not least, this product is also customizable. Our intent was to, out of the box, make it quite configurable and quite flexible. But we know that customers might have other things that they want to do. They want to extend it. And so what we did was we allowed you to apply your own CSS and JSPs to work with our portlets so that you have even more flexibility over the display without having to write any back-end code. So you can do this using JSP, HTML, and CSS. You don't have to know how to develop portlets. You don't have to write ADF. You don't have to know anything about transforming XML or interacting with the GSA response format. You can control your display layer without having to worry about the back end. So that was something that was important to be able to provide that extensibility. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the demo. I'm going to show a couple of different things. I'm going to start out in Liferay, and I'm going to show compare and contrast between the Portal Search Suite and using the XSLT out of the box. Then I'm going to show some of the examples of how you would configure the portlets to change the way that they look and the way they behave. After that, I'm going to switch over to WebCenter, and I'm going to kind of contrast the way that the pages look in WebCenter, how they inherit a different look and feel. And then after that, I'm actually going to start with a completely blank page and show how easy it is to get a new search page up and running using the Portal Search Suite. So I'm going to start out here. I'm in Liferay Portal, and I have a portal page where I have a iframe into the GSA. So if I start typing, you can see I get my search suggestions back. I can pick Fishbowl Consulting, do a search, and I get my results within the portal. Now it's pretty obvious that this is disconnected from the rest of the portal, but for the most part, the features are there. I can see my document previews. I have, you notice over here, I have narrow your search. This is using the dynamic result clusters, which I cannot also have the dynamic navigation because this is one of the features. You can only have one or the other. But you can see I get my search results back within this iframe. So I can't move things around. I can't move that over there, etc. So this is kind of like out of the box, most basic XSLT in the portal. Now I'm going to switch over here where I have a blank page. I have a search box on a page. So I'm going to search again for Fishbowl Consulting. And you'll notice the difference right away between these two search experiences. This one is much more integrated with the look and feel of the portal, just the size of the fonts, the colors, the way it looks. And I haven't made any customizations to the CSS. This is how it looks right out of the box when you install the portlet and use them in Liferay Portal. So you can see I had the type ahead, I have the key matches. You can provide these filters. Jason mentioned these last week to use your metadata to allow people to drill down on the results. And then, of course, your core search results down here. I have the document preview still right in the portal, so I can see a preview of a document. Help. This was part of this importance of display. Help a user figure out, is this what I want or not? We also do that through snippets. And then, of course, you have your people search over here, so I can not only see documents related to Fishbowl Consulting, but I can see people related to Fishbowl Consulting. And then I have my related searches at the bottom, which is something that you couldn't do with the XSLT. I can have both of these on the page at the same time if I want to. We do provide a portlet to also allow users to share their feedback on the search experience so that you can, over time, get feedback on what's working, what isn't, are people finding what they want, and then use that in the GSA to do things like set up new synonyms, fine-tune the relevancy, think about, are there other systems in the enterprise that people are looking for data from that we haven't indexed? Maybe we should consider indexing those. So this is a pretty quick overview of the search page. If you joined us last week, you may have already seen this. What I want to do now is I want to turn on the edit controls. And you'll see when I do that, that the little control windows pop up for each of the portlets. So each of these sections is an individual portlet, which means it's super easy if I want to move this and say, you know, I think this should be at the top, it can be. If I want my key matches over here, they can be. And it's very easy to do that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show an example of a few of the configuration options that you have. So I'm going to go into the options for the search box. And the search box is going to control the scope of the searches that you're performing. So you can see here, I provide the URL to the GSA that I'm connected to. And then I want to talk about the search scope for a moment. So what the search scope will allow you to do is have a menu. You might have noticed, I'll show it when I go back, the option to click entire company. So what we've seen a number of customers want to do is be able to have, you know, search across the entire company or pick from a list. Maybe I only want to search the HR site. Maybe I only want to search the IT site, or I want to only search the public website. You have options to do that. I'm going to add a new one now for videos. So I'm going to add an option to specifically search videos. I mentioned before we have a YouTube connector. This is our own YouTube videos indexed with our YouTube connector. So I'm going to add a collection for that. And I'm going to save this. I'm also going to show an example of the people search. So every single one of these portlets has a number of these types of configurations. I'm not going to go into all of them. But for example, in the people search portlet, say I want to change the heading text, I could easily change it to say employee directory instead of people search. Here's where you define the actual collection and front end on the GSA that hosts the expert search or people search information. And then you can define what fields you want to show up. So if I want to add another one, say office phone, I know that exists within the telephone number field. I can add that, save this, and then if I do another search for Fishbowl Solutions, you can see now I'm getting the office phone number for all of those people. I can also, you know, change things like the results per page. Now here is the collection menu that I was talking about before. So you can see I added videos. So right now I'm searching across the entire company. I'm searching across all of my content. If I want to search only for videos, I can change that and repeat my search. Now my results changed, but when we're talking about videos, it's oftentimes more helpful to see a thumbnail. So we have the option to have thumbnail view. And so I switch that, and you can quickly page through these videos. And again, it makes it easy for someone to not only find relevant results from the GSA, but then identify which of these is actually the one that I'm looking for, which is the content that I care about. And this grid view is also very flexible. So if I show the configuration for the results page here, you can see we let you decide, do you want to turn on grid view? Maybe you don't have any thumbnails, so it's not useful. So you can choose which of these views you want to enable, what's your default. You can control where is it going to get the thumbnails from. So in this case, I have a thumbnail for all these videos that I can configure. You can do things like turn on document previews, and then like I mentioned before, we allow you to supply alternate CSS or JSP files. So if you want to take the files that we ship with the product and copy them and then alter them even more, you have that additional level of flexibility to control the look and feel of your search pages. So that's kind of an overview of the configuration options, the way that the search experience looks in Liferay. Now I'm going to switch over to WebCenter Portal, and I'm going to show some of the same things, and then I'm going to show creating a new page. So again, if I start typing, you'll see I have the type ahead suggestions like you would see on Google.com or like you would get on the front end. If I search for Fishbowl Consulting, timed out, try that again. There we go. So you'll see the results are the exact same result that I got in Liferay. I'm searching the same GSA, the same content, but they look very different. This is also right out of the box, but it's inheriting the CSS of this portal, which looks different. So without doing any customizations, I have something that matches out of the box. Beyond that, it's fairly similar. You can see I still have my document previews. I can apply different kinds of filters over the time frame, the relevancy. I can use my grid view. We also have the dynamic navigation, so I can use the metadata that I have in place to help filter my search results. So the search experience is very similar, but you have flexibility over the look and feel to make it match the look and the style of your portal and your branding. What I want to do now is actually show you how easy it is to create an entirely new search page. So I'm going to go back to my portal builder. So this is the Oracle WebCenter Portal builder. Refresh my chat, I haven't timed out. So I'm going to edit my WebCenter Search Demo portal. And here's the search page that we looked at. But what I want to do is I have a blank search page here. And this is just a page that I added, one column layout. I haven't done anything else to it. It's just a blank portal page. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my UI component and choose Portlets and choose GSA Search Portlets. So once you install the product, these will be here available for use. And you just browse them. It's that easy. Now I have the 8 different portlets I can choose to add to my portal page. So I'm just going to create a basic search page. I'm going to add my search box. I'm going to add my search results. I'll add my key matches, and then I can reorder the way this shows up. So I want my search box on the top, and then my key matches, and then my core results. So now those portlets are on the page. You'll notice it says I need to configure my settings. So I'll go into here, and this is a configuration page. This is basically the same page that you saw in Liferay. The same configuration options are available in WebCenter. So we'll set this up to create a new search page. So I don't need that. I'm just going to do one option, so I don't need to show the collection menu since there's only going to be one thing in it. I'll keep my type ahead and my Powered by Google logo. I can search secure content, and I'll keep the search terms. Now I'm going to choose my GSA, which is Demo GSA. So I'm just going to type that in. Leave the filters as they are. For this, I'm just going to leave the default collection. You could specify any collection that's on your GSA, any front end, but I'll leave it as this. And then the last thing I need to do is I need to provide a license. The search box portlet is going to control your licensing. So I have that handy. You would get this when you purchase the product, so I'll add that in there, and I'll save it. Now I'm going to save my portal page. I'm going to go back over to my view, and I have new search page, refresh. There's my search box. Search for a fishbowl. And there's my search results. That fast, that easy. You can tell it looks a little different. I've hidden the search portlet headers in my other page that I showed earlier. I haven't hidden them here. Again, that's very simple portlet configuration to turn that on and off. But it was less than 5 minutes, and I was able to add these search boxes to the page, put in some features, and have a working search page in the portal. I'm seeing the question lighting up, so with that, I'm going to switch back over, and I'm going to open it up for some questions. So there's a question about SharePoint. I'm assuming that is referring to the SharePoint connector that I mentioned earlier about for indexing. So Google has a SharePoint connector. That's really to index content from SharePoint and get that into the GSA. So that's not going to be, this product itself doesn't necessarily, it would work with any version of SharePoint. It doesn't actually do anything with SharePoint. So the way that it works is once content is in your index, which could happen to be from SharePoint, it's going to enable any of that to be served up in your portal. The SharePoint connector that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, that's developed by Google and supported by them, and I believe that supports SharePoint 2010 and SharePoint 2013. So if that's what you're asking about, there's your answer. There's a question about, is Fishbowl a reseller of the GSA? Where can I get a GSA? The answer is yes, we are a reseller. We sell the search appliance as well as a number of products and the consulting services to implement them. So yes, we can. There's a question about customizing the XSLT front ends. It says, what is the difficulty and skills to customize the XSLT front ends? What is the time needed to roll out? So this is going to depend a lot on what you're actually trying to customize. Like I said before, if it's just changing maybe some colors, putting in your own header, that's going to be pretty quick. The level of difficulty is pretty low, and it wouldn't take a lot of time. If you're looking at doing a full-scale customization, fully changing the look and feel, that's going to take, it's going to be a lot longer. I would say, upwards of a month or multiple months, and the real challenge there is there's just not a lot of documentation from Google on how that works, so it's kind of a get in there and start changing things and seeing what works. So it's just really going to depend a lot on what you're actually trying to accomplish, which is one of the reasons why we created this product. Is just we haven't seen a lot of customers. We've seen a number of customers use it with some basic changes, but we haven't seen a lot of customers really fully customize it, just because I don't think it's not Google's intention to really allow it to be a platform for that. Hopefully that answers your question. I know that it's kind of an it depends answer. There's a question about what versions of Liferay this supports. It supports Liferay 6.2. If you have other versions you're wondering about, you can send them to me and I'll follow up with our team, but 6.2 is the version that we support. There's a question about connectors for IBM's WCM. If we have a connector, Fishbowl does not have a connector. I don't know. I know Google has a number of connectors, so I'm not sure specifically which application you're talking about, if one of those would work for your scenario. There's a question about, are we talking about WebCenter Portal or WCM? So I'm going to try to read into that a little bit. We are talking about WebCenter Portal, so Oracle WebCenter Portal 11G. If you're wondering about WCM, meaning like Site Studio or WebCenter Content, Web Content Management, we have done a number of projects integrating the GSA with Site Studio or with WCM sites. This particular product would not be used for that, but it's something that we've done a lot in the past, and we would be able to, we have a connector for WebCenter Content, so we would be able to use that to help you integrate a tightly integrated flexible search experience, similar to what I showed in the portal. If you have a Site Studio website, we could do the same thing there. So hopefully that answers your question, but this product specifically applies to Portal. There's a question about where the portlet is deployed. Is it on the same managed node where WebCenter Portal is running? So the portlets are deployed on the Portlets server in WebCenter Portal. Going through a number of questions here. Any of these that we don't get to, we will follow up afterwards. There's a question about the documentation for this product. Where can we get the documentation? I would say I can follow up with you after the presentation to look at getting any questions you might have answered in that regard. It's not posted on the website. We do have a product page on our website that offers some more details, so depending on the depth of information you're looking for, I would suggest that's a good place to start, but I can certainly follow up afterwards with more information. There's a question about what are the server requirements to run the Fishbowl connector. So if you're talking about our connectors for indexing, or if you're talking about this product, The requirements for this product would be either WebCenter Portal 11G or Liferay 6.2, and then Google Search Appliance 7.2. If you're actually asking about our connectors, so connector for WebCenter or connector for YouTube, those support GSA 7 or 7.2, and then in the case of WebCenter content, we support both 10G and 11G. So hopefully that answers your question. If you have a follow-up, feel free to type it in the search box. There's a question about, can I have the search box, can I use this with the search box that's built in? I'm thinking maybe what you're getting at, we can do. So what you can do is if you have, say, a search box at the top of your portal template, whether you're in WebCenter or Liferay, if you have a search box, maybe it's in the header of all of your pages, and what you want to be able to do is type in there, and then when you search, have it come up in the portlets like I demoed, but instead of having it on like one of the pages, actually having it in the header of all the pages. We do allow you to do that, and we provide documentation with the product on how to pass parameters from like an input box in your template to the actual portlets on the page. So if that's what you're asking, you can do that with this product. There's a question about, does this product include the connector for indexing the content? No. So this product does not do any indexing. We have a number of customers using our WebCenter content connector to index the portal content and then serve it up through something like this. The other option is, depending on the content in your portal, a lot of times with the right configuration, you can actually crawl the portal just like you would a regular website. So those two options exist, but this product itself focuses exclusively on serving and not on indexing. There's another question, how many portals will the GSA appliance support? What is the limit? I have several WebCenter content domains on the same server, different domains. So the GSA can index, the way that the GSA is licensed and its limitations are purely based on the number of content items that you're indexing. So you purchase a license for a certain number of content items, and it doesn't matter if those are coming from multiple domains or if they're coming from one domain. So in that case, it's purely dependent on the amount of content and not the number of domains. To kind of go along with that, this product, the GSA Portal Search Suite, is licensed per GSA. So you need a license for every GSA that you have, but if you have one GSA and say you have 3 portals or you have 10 different pages on a portal that you want to use it on, you can use the same license on all of those in all of those places. So you need one license for this product for each GSA. And then the GSA itself is licensed by document count, and you can effectively license as many repositories or as many portals as you want, as long as the total number of documents is within your licensed number of items. Just reviewing this list, I think we got to most of the questions. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to type them in. All right, I think we got to all of the questions. So thank you all very much for joining us. Certainly, if you think of any other questions after the fact, feel free to reach out. If you want more information, want to see a custom demo, or have additional questions, you want to show this to other people in the organization, feel free to respond to the email that comes the follow-up email, or send an email to info@fishbowlsolutions.com, and we'll be happy to follow up with you. Thanks again for joining. Have a great day, and we'll hope you'll be able to make it on our next webinar.